Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Her Hoop Stats podcast. I'm Chelsea Lay, and I am joined by Tyler DeLuca today. And before we get into, all the things that we have to talk about, make sure to subscribe to the Her Hoop Stats podcast and to check out our newsletter and, all of the fun stuff we have going on over at herhoopstats.com. You can also follow us on X or Blue Sky or Instagram, wherever you spend your doom scrolling hours. So make sure to check that out. We post podcasts Monday to Friday here on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. But I'm excited to talk to Tyler today. We haven't been able to chop it up in a few weeks.
It's been a minute.
And, the two of us always rile each other up. So this should be fun. We're going to get into, we thought about the fact there was no WNBA games last night. So it's not like we have anything to react to that's pressing. But we thought we'd kind of talk about the New York Liberty as a team because they have been crushing it. And we just kind of wanted a space to just get into all of the nitty gritty of why are they so good? What are they doing better than last year? Who can beat them? What is happening? So, that's what we're getting into today. So apologies to anybody who doesn't want to hear anything about New York. That's your problem.
Look, I'll tell you, this was a historic win this past weekend. So,
oh man, yeah. Here's my thing too: is obviously, I cover the national WNBA beat, right? So it's not like I'm going to be able to watch every single game live every single time. So this was Sunday, yeah. Yep. So Sunday, weather is good in Toronto. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go on my long run of the week, run to the beach, whatever. It's going to be a Connecticut-New York game. I'll catch it later. Nothing shocking is going to happen. I get home, and they've won by 48 points. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I expected them to win, but not by 48 points.
Yeah.
So anyway, did you watch the game live?
I didn't get to watch it live. I had to watch it back because I was driving back from being in Dallas covering the Sky and Wings game. But normally, I really try, and if I'm ever talking about a game, I don't I want to watch the game, as should.
Yeah.
This might be a game where you could truly box score watch and you get an idea for what happened. Because if you look, and plus minus is never telling the full story.
No.
I don't know. Today it might just tell the full story. Because some of these plus minuses, and not to call anyone out in particular, because Connecticut obviously just as a team was just not good enough on Sunday.
No.
But minus
and just
the for Marina Mabry is absolutely insane. I'm not even blaming Marina for the loss at the time.
No.
But that being the worst plus minus on the team on this grand of a scale is I don't think I've ever seen anything like that, especially not in a WNBA game. This is insane. The second highest margin of victory, I think, of all time.
Well, I was gonna get into these facts here, just so if you missed the game. So the New York Liberty won 100-52 over the Connecticut Sun on Sunday. They held the Sun to under 30 points there was 28 points at halftime. And when I was watching it back, they held them. They didn't score in the first, I think, 6 or 7 minutes of the third quarter. So 28 points lasted almost to the fourth quarter. It is the second largest margin of victory in WNBA history. So they almost got the highest, but second highest in WNBA history. And they matched their own WNBA record by hitting 19 3-pointers in a single game, which is wild.
Yeah.
And then when you just look at the box score, Brianna Stewart plus 44, Leonie Fibish plus 43, Jonquil Jones plus 40, Natasha Cloud plus 44, Sabrina Ionescu plus 28. Sabrina was the highest scorer with 18 points. She went 4 for 6 from 3 and 6 for 9 from the field, which incredibly efficient. Jonquil Jones, 11 rebounds, 13 points. She scored 3 for 4 from the 3-point line. Hilarious.
No, 59% from 3 is ridiculous.
Yeah, for a big. Like,
Yeah.
she's a
Well,
center.
that's for the whole team. The whole team shot
The whole team,
59.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 62% from the field, which is wild as well. And then, like, Leonie Fibish also 3 for 4 from 3. Stewie had 1. Natasha Cloud went she only scored 2, but she went 2 for 2 from 3.
Mhm.
And just, like, again, like, box score is not always going to tell the story of a game, but, like, even, like, Maureen Johannes had plus 22 off the bench,
Yeah.
8
The real
points.
MJ.
Yeah, the real
The
MJ.
real MJ.
Every single player played. So Sandy went deep into her bench. The only player that was out was Niar Sabli. She had a knee injury, which I don't think is too serious, but they're kind of managing. Every single player was in the plus except for Marquisha Davis, who scored 2 points and had 8 minutes. So, like, good run for a young player. But every single player scored uh, in this game, and every single player played at least 8 minutes. Marquisha Davis was the only one in under 10 minutes. She had 8. So just like when you think about, like, if you're not if you're a Sun fan, but if you're a Liberty fan and you're like, okay, this is like a class, like, this is an all timer.
Mhm.
When you think about just like this team, and I think they just keep looking better and better. Like,
That's what's so scary. It's
yeah,
like every time I think that they're like, okay, like they've, kinda not hit a ceiling, but like, okay, like this is what the Liberty are. Like
yeah,
they do something like this, or they go like it's been in different ways of impressiveness, right? Like you have like this game, which is a complete blowout. You go into
mhm,
Indiana and win that game, right? And like in a close game,
yeah,
like so it's different ways of impressing. But yeah, I mean the fact that they went, I just I can't believe this team got Natasha Cloud. Like that's just like what I keep coming back to is like Phoenix and Connecticut. What have you done to like
literally.
what have you done to allow this
Connecticut, not
team?
so much. Connecticut, not so much, because like
I don't
she
know,
just didn't
man.
want to play there.
They're the ones that traded her to New York, so
Yeah,
their
I
hit
guess.
is they are guilty as well.
Uh,
I'm not saying they
but like
inherently did anything
Phoenix,
wrong, but like I cannot believe that, and I'm like
Phoenix.
I mean look, Phoenix was looking pretty good right now too. So like it's working
Yeah,
out so far, but just the fact
yeah.
that out of any team that she could have ended up on, she ends up on New York, and when you think about I I think I said this before, but like if you could build a point guard in the lab for this New York Liberty team, it's Natasha Cloud. You have the energy, you have the playmaking, you have the defense. Not like an incredible like insane knockdown shooter, but absolutely capable of doing that. Right, like when her time and
Yeah.
her numbers called, that's not really what you have her there for. The
No.
personality that she's like just ingrained into this team like immediately as soon as she walked in the door, it felt like she just kind of
Mhm.
became such a natural piece of what was already
Yeah.
built, because that's always what's kind of hard is if you try and retool after going and winning a championship, and this is really for any team, how does that new
Mhm.
piece, especially a piece that is going to be such a vital role as your starting point guard, how does
Yeah.
that how does that function? What does that look like? It looks better.
Yeah.
It simply looks better, and losing Benaja out for the season, was major, like, and going
Mhm.
into the season, and was, like, a natural cause for worry, and, like, that is completely
Mhm.
valid. This team
Yep.
is still better, and
Yeah.
that is a lot of it has to do with, the scouting of having a player on roster like a Phoebich, for example, who is so good in her own
So
right,
good.
like, so it's I can't believe that this team again, like, Natasha Cloud was the perfect player to put next to Sabrina,
Literally.
and
Like,
can absolutely help set up your bigs. I
yeah.
cannot comprehend the WNBA, like, just as like, someone do something, someone step in, like, what do you mean Natasha
No.
Cloud is going to New York?
I
I
mean, if Jonathan Kolb doesn't win executive of the year, if because that was the move. That was the
yeah,
move.
it's
And
it's
apparently
definitely
he's
bad.
had that on the board for a while.
Mhm,
Um, Similar to like the John Cole Jones move when that happened, and obviously Stewie and et cetera, right? So like yeah, they just know exactly how to like build around their players and make them better. And seeing the chemistry that Cloud built with Ionescu and Unrivaled was a
mhm,
huge thing. And like you said, like the on and off court, like I'm not saying the Liberty weren't likable last year because they definitely were, but like to get a championship team and then make them more lovable the next time around where everybody's got a target on them and everybody wants to beat them, like that's impressive. And then you have the fact that she's performing extremely well on the court, blending in exactly what this team needs on the court and then also bringing that off the court. I mean, it doesn't get any more perfect than that for them, and they just look like so dominant. And I mean, Stewie looks healthy, which is great. I mean, obviously there's ups and downs with her, especially coming off of that knee injury, but you have Jonquil Jones who looks great. She missed one game, was able to come back. Sabrina Ionescu looks great and just continues to keep getting better year by year, which is so great knowing how her career started with that ankle injury that just kind of lingered for a few years. And then of course, the Leonie Phoebish thing just always gets me because I'm like, that girl, her rights just bounced around and around the league for years.
There's a lot of teams that had her rights that could be using Leonie Phoebish right now.
Yep. And she just didn't come over, which is fine. Like, it's completely your choice when you come over. But the fact that those teams didn't keep her rights and it was just kind of an add-in to trades here and there throughout the W. And then New York gets her, brings her over, and now she's just like one of the most impactful players in the league as like that secondary kind of, she's not obviously in the caliber of their big three, but like comes in and just makes an impact, is an efficient player, is able to defend. She has a lot of like strength and height on her. She's a mismatch for defense. I mean, again, it's just like the executive decisions of this team they're playing chess, not checkers, and it's just good.
Yeah,
like, it's good.
No, it's very good. And I think one thing, and this probably ties back in with my point on Cloud as well. But like, this team looks hungry. Like, like this is a team that had, as an organization, had never won a championship until last year. This is a super team that, if they don't win that championship last year, like, what are we looking at? This, you know, like, what does this look like? The narratives about what this, like, it would have been deemed like it was championship or bust, right? And you could say whatever about the refs and everything, and I know people had plenty to say about the refs, but ultimately you hoist the championship at the end of the season.
Yeah,
and to come back this year and not seem fulfilled at all, and I mean that complimentary, and I think a lot of that has to do, honestly, with Natasha Cloud, like, and like her personality getting on and off the court. There seems to be like a legitimate hunger to be better, and that's terrifying for the rest of the WNBA. You know, like, I literally put a tweet out and I was like, NBA All-Star Weekend, but it's just the Liberty versus the rest of the league.
I saw that
right now. Like, that's it. We haven't seen a link up like this in New York since Loki pulled up with this many, like, just insane people on one team. Like, so I'm just blown away by what they've been able to do. And like, you have like players like Rebecca Gardner just coming off the bench, like, just casual. Like the depth on this team as well. Like, it's I'm just so
coming off the bench, Kennedy Burke, Rebecca Gardner,
Niara when she's healthy.
Yeah, Izzy Harrison had a great game, Niara, and then their young players in Sherrod and Davis are just like also incredibly great. And I think like the fun part about this team too is like their core is the same. They all won a championship last year. But then you have like Cloud, you have Marine, you have, you know, like a few, like Izzy Harrison, a few of these players that weren't on the team last year who haven't won a championship. And so that hunger comes from them too. And I'm sure that trickles into like Stewie and Jones and Ionescu being like, okay, like, I want to, like, we have that hunger for these people as well.
Different. I ain't never seen Sabrina acting like the review thing and everything. I was like, what?
Oh my god, that was hilarious. Showing her hair
in Barclays. Like, I ain't never ever seen Sabrina act like that. Like, ever in my life. I was like, they are acting different, and like, you know, it's some people are gonna love it, some people are gonna hate it, but like,
I mean, it goes to show, like, we talk about locker rooms a lot, and usually it's talking like negatively about locker rooms, like who's the problem or who's whatever. But like, I think this team just kind of proves the benefit of having like a wonderful, lovely, positive locker room. Like, they have everybody's bought in, everybody gets along. And I'm not saying you have to get along so well to win a championship, I'm not saying that, but, like, you can see
That's a good
and I
point.
mean, that's, again, the benefit of having all this, like, social media and, like, inside
Mhm,
access to these
mhm,
teams these days, which just kind of, like, adds to everything, but, like, coaches are bought in, teams are bought in, teammates are bought in with each other, and you can see that through, like, their social media interactions, you can see that through what the team is putting out in terms of content, you can see that by the reactions when, say, like, Cloud wins player of the week or somebody has a great game or et cetera, and, like, I think that just adds to it as well, like, you have that hunger, you wanna win together, and, like, having a great locker room, I think, is such I mean, we talk about it a lot in a negative way, but when you have that on the opposite scale, you're just thriving, like, you
mhm.
can just see, like not to, like, make it all about the vibes, but, like, I don't know, like, it helps. I
Vibes are
think it
good,
helps so
and
much.
winning
Yeah,
helps
vibes
too,
are good.
and they're doing plenty of
Yeah,
that. They're doing
exactly.
plenty of that at the top of the league right now, 7-0. So, like, not everything is just clicking across the board. Like, there's really,
Yeah.
like, no complaints that can really be had right now, and, like like, especially when you look at, like, the other teams across the league, like, I feel like there's
Mhm,
generally, like, for one way or another, and some teams more than others, but, like, there's something you can point out and be like, "Oh, well,
mhm.
hold on," like,
Yeah,
there's hesitancy on different things, and, like, I mean,
mhm.
obviously, that doesn't mean other teams are bad, but, like, you can find
No.
holes to poke in it. It's very
Yeah.
hard to poke holes in this New York Liberty team right now.
Yeah, it's true. And then, just obviously we're already thinking about playoffs and like, the New York Liberty are obviously the favorites to repeat right now, but
Mhm,
then you start to get into this thing. I mean, you said like all-star game just against the Liberty, but like you think about teams like can anyone beat this team in a 3, 5, 7 game series?
mm,
And that list is extremely low. I mean, obviously Minnesota is up there.
for sure.
They're also 7-0. A
Mhm,
lot of great stuff coming out from that team. Like you said, like maybe a hole or two to poke, thinking about, is Nafisa going to stay healthy? Do they have the depth? Et cetera, et cetera. And like bringing obviously Kayla McBride coming back was huge for them because
for
then
sure.
not all of the offensive like pressure is on Nafisa, but
Mhm,
they obviously have a fantastic case to be able to come back to the
yeah,
finals and be able to beat New York. But even so, like I'm curious, we don't get a Minnesota New York game, which I think this is such a flaw in the schedule, and we don't get that till July 31st, I think. And
yeah,
then they
yeah.
play like three times in 1 week, and I'm
It's
like, oh,
awful.
come on.
Yes,
It's awful.
yeah, it's July 30th, you have it here. July
Yeah.
30th, August 10th, August 16th, August 19th.
Yeah, unless we get the
What do you
Commissioner's Cup game, which is it's kinda looking like that at the moment,
Yeah, true.
that we'll get them in the Commissioner's Cup game, but I
But we
don't think
shouldn't
that
have to
that's like
rely on the Commissioner's Cup to get
yeah,
a finals rematch before the All-Star break.
yeah, like,
That's
this should have
ridiculous.
been, like, opening weekend kind of vibes, or it could have been,
Yes.
like, first 2 weeks of the schedule because
Yeah.
everybody's like, "Okay, when are these teams are on a collision course,"
Mhm.
and then you get them in the second half of the season, a bunch of times in a row, like 3, 4 times in a row, injuries are gonna start locking up, and then it starts to feel like a series, and I'm like, "Okay, I don't want this to feel like a series because 'cause we're gonna
Yeah.
get that in the finals." Like, I want to see how they are at the beginning of the season, I wanna see how they match up in the middle of the season, and I wanna see how they match up closer to the playoffs, like a beginning, middle,
Yeah.
and end kind of vibe. So
Yeah.
that's like a big thing because you can't really judge who can beat each other until you get like 2 of the 4 games under.
Yeah.
Like last year, I feel like with Las Vegas, New York, once New York was 2-0 up on them on the season series, we were kind of like, "Oh, like,
Yeah, that's a
okay,
great point.
this is kind of how this is going." And of course, Las Vegas can turn things around in the later half of the season, but it's nice to get that idea of how the rosters match up with each other early on in the
Mhm.
season when teams haven't peaked yet or hopefully haven't peaked yet. And it's just yeah, I just think it's a disappointing miss by the league to not schedule the finals rematch in like May or June instead of having 3 games in a week in
Yeah.
August for like whatever rivals week it's or whatever it is. Which like I do think that these two teams are building like a modern rivalry right now, but like I hate when that stuff's pushed. I'm like just give
Yeah.
us like the natural progression of things, please.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, again, I cannot comprehend not having come on. Like, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's just, like, what like, why would we have 3 games in the month of
Mhm.
August. And July 30th,
Yeah.
I mean, July 30th, I mean, essentially 4 games in a month, like, in, like, a 3-week span, like, pretty much,
Yeah.
like, that is I mean, it is really, like, we are going to see as close as we can get to, like, a playoff series in the regular season between these teams, and
Yeah.
that's not what I want. I save
No.
the playoff series for the playoffs, like, and
Exactly.
we'll get there when we get there, like, I don't need to see it just loses, like, kinda some of the allure about it as well, too, I feel like, when,
Yeah.
like, they're just playing, like again, in the regular season, when they're playing back to back like that,
Mhm.
that's just not how it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
And we can't really gauge where these teams are at, until, like well, obviously, one team starts slipping and they start picking up losses, like, that's one thing, but, like, generally speaking, like, we're it's a pretty clear tier 1 right now with the
Mhm.
Liberty at the top and then the links below them, and then the
Yeah.
rest of the league in various
Correct.
tiers. We're not even gonna see this tier 1 matchup until after All-Star break?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
don't
just not. It's just like, again, you want to see how these rosters, because like both teams did a few little minuscule changes to their roster in an effort to get better. Both are 7-0.
Mhm,
Both are playing fantastic against these other big, like, lower tier teams, like in that second tier teams. And then you just like, we're just kind of sitting here being like, okay, like, but
mhm,
how do they match up together? And
mhm,
it's a little frustrating, and especially when you play teams back to back to back, the scouting becomes different, things become a little bit more predictable. And like for me, with a matchup as great and as big as these teams, like I want these gritty, like, defensive, offensive games, especially like we saw in the final
mhm,
series. But like, I want them to be able to take whatever performances they have in the first game and have a long time to be able to fix whatever they did for the next. Like, I want the scouts to be different. I want this,
yeah,
all these different like things that you can fix in, say, like a few week time span. But when you
mhm,
play like 3 times in 2 weeks, it's just gonna be like, okay, like Stewie or whoever, is favoring this, and then so we're just gonna defend her this way, or
yeah,
this person has been in and out of injury, so, we're just gonna leave them or whatever, right? Like,
mhm.
I'm terribly explaining how scouting works right now, but, like but,
Well,
like,
that's the gist of
yeah,
it.
the gist of it, like, when you have, like, say, for example, if you see a team in the first week and you're like, "Okay, these are their glaring problems," because obviously the
Mhm,
first week isn't peak basketball. You're like, "Okay, these are their glaring problems. We see them again in 6 weeks. How can we exploit those problems when they've already been working to fix them for 6
mhm,
weeks?"
mhm,
And how can, like, and that's like the level of like, are you a good team or are you a great team, is how well you exploit the other team's weaknesses on the court. And if you're already 3/4 of the way through the season and you haven't seen a team yet, it's like, how do you even gauge that other than going and scouting, which, like, serves its purpose, but you don't get that experience until you're on the court with them. So,
yeah.
anyway,
I don't know, man,
long-winded way of
ask
saying
Kathy.
Kathy.
Ask
Um,
Kathy. I don't know,
yeah.
I can't believe we don't get to see them play. It's
Yeah, it's disappointing. And I mean, again, like we're saying, like Commissioner's Cup, but you never know who they might sit, because that game again doesn't count to the regular season. They
Mhm,
win money, which, like, of course everybody wants money. I'm not saying it's not important.
absolutely.
Well, money, we want money. I want money, you want money, they want money.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, so I'm not saying they're not going to take that game seriously, but if you're debating whether or not to rest someone, for example, and you're like, "Okay, this game doesn't technically count for the regular season," that's the game to rest them, right? And so, like, we might not get the true matchup that we would see in a regular season game. So, that's the other thing. But, I mean, in your opinion,
mhm,
other than, I guess, Minnesota, because 'cause we've talked about them quite a lot,
mhm.
is there any other team in the league that you think could beat New York in a playoff series?
In a full series? It's I don't know, man. I truthfully I don't. If I was like if I'm looking at the league right now, and
Mhm.
obviously Indiana looked great against them, when healthy, especially in that second half. So like that is immediately the thing that comes to mind. But they got problems on their own right now, especially with Caitlin out, right? So like when Caitlin's back and everything, like that is like probably the team that first comes to mind. Vegas, I'm still not incredibly moved by.
The matchups are really what come down to Vegas. Like the Phoebish on Gray matchup is like,
well,
for New York,
I just still don't think. I just don't think Jewel Lloyd is back to like a championship level yet. And if we see that, then that's one thing, but like as of what we've seen right now, I don't really see that. The fact that A'ja Wilson is still leading in every statistical category, while incredibly impressive for A'ja, is absolutely horrific for the long-term success of this Aces team. And that's not a knock on A'ja, that's everyone else, because that is we saw last year, like the gas tank ran on empty by the time we got to the playoffs. And it feels like we're on that same road again, and there's no gas stations in sight to fill up. Like it's just
they don't get an Olympic break. A'ja will be at the All-Star game. Like there's no break for her.
Right. So like I'm not incredibly moved by them. Seattle's been a bit up and down. Phoenix has certainly been, and Atlanta are certainly standout teams that are just doing way better than I anticipated, especially early on. I still don't see them with a matchup to beat New York though. Atlanta maybe, like just on play style of like can they outpace New York and potentially just kind of rain down threes, and maybe because they have the size to match up inside, but then if you bring out Bree Jones and BG on the perimeter with Stewie and Jonquel, then what? So like New York is an absolute powerhouse, and it feels like Fee is the only hope for the WNBA right now. And like that's what it feels like, because they might not have the star power of the Aces surrounding their MVP candidate, but they are a better team than the Aces right now.
And like the thing with the Aces right now is that like in this league currently, you need front court depth in order to beat teams, because you think about the top teams right now. New York has the combo of JJ and Stewie, and then a bunch of people who can come off the bench and play that position.
Right.
Minnesota has Alana Smith and Nafisa Collier kind of in that realm, and again has people who can come off the bench and defend that position well. And then you think about Vegas, and you have A'ja Wilson, obviously, who is carrying the load for this team. It took Kia Stokes 4 or 5 games to score a single point. And I understand that she's more of a defensive player, but I'm going to say this every time I talk about her, because I went on the same rant last week on this podcast. But you can't win a championship when one of your 5 starters is not scoring the basketball in the basket.
Yeah, it's just like a non-factor.
It took you 5 games. 5, and teams aren't even defending her anymore. So technically you have like a 4-on-5 matchup on offense, because teams are just leaving her. Like nobody's defending her. And I'm just like,
it's not ideal.
And obviously you have Liz Kitley, who comes in and is like doing well as her, like on her rookie campaign. I think Liz Kitley is going to be a fantastic WNBA player. Do not get me wrong. But like,
I don't want to see her on Jonquel or Stewie in a playoff series.
Exactly. And it's just like, Las Vegas, what are you doing? What are you doing?
The standard has just been set so high with what New York, because obviously you bring in the stars, but it's their scouting across the board that has allowed them to be in this position where, because yes, their star power is fantastic. It's the others that are making this team so incredibly good right now, and that is a thing that has not been very widespread. Like, I mean, the only other team that's like can really be comparable to them right now in that sense, in particular, is the gems that Phoenix have been able to find and are getting the most out right now. That's like the only team that even comes close, I feel like, from like a pure like scouting perspective. But obviously, that's where the stars come in for New York. Like where and what they do. So I just I don't see it right now. Again, even I picked the Liberty preseason to win the championship. Nothing is deterring me from that at the moment, and it certainly only feels like Seattle, like at their best. Like I see a vision, because like Nneka and Ezzy on Stewie and Jonquel, a much friendlier matchup than most teams have, right? And Malonga as your depth against like some of their bigs, like There's been like some rookie bumps, but like I think by the time we get to
Also,
the season,
career Erica Wheeler season? Sure.
absolutely, you know, like so like
Sure.
Seattle, I feel like Seattle, if I was to pick a team, would probably be my dark horse team to do it, but like it has to
Yeah.
be Seattle at their absolute best, and we haven't been able
Best.
to find an incredible consistency with that yet.
Yeah, and I also don't wanna judge Phoenix until Kalia is back and, like, hopefully healthy, because if
Mhm.
they have Alyssa Thomas, Satu Sabally, and a healthy Kalia Copper, also I think
'Cause
they
they're
could
doing this
be
without
losing.
Ka, and, like,
Yeah,
there's no
exactly.
indication for, like, what they're doing is going to be harmed by Ka coming back and, like,
Yeah,
being a
exactly.
dominant player, so, like,
So,
I'm
like, yeah, we
yeah,
could
I
judge
this
them in, like, a month or 2.
yeah, no, I'm with that, so I'm very intrigued by what that looks like when Ka comes back, but yeah, ultimately, right now, the New York Liberty just look like an absolute buzzsaw, and
Yeah,
I would love to see them against Minnesota right now, so we could deem that. However,
literally.
I don't get what I want, all the
No,
time, and so
you can't always get what you want.
mhm,
And, like, when you think about, so New York Liberty are 7-0 right now.
mhm,
They play Thursday, they play Washington.
mhm,
Can assume that might be a win.
mm,
Then they play Chicago next Tuesday, again.
yeah,
So that brings you to 9-0. Then you have Indiana on Saturday, June 14th at Indiana. So big
mhm,
game. Clark will hopefully be back,
mhm,
which I think based on her timeline right now, she'll probably be back for that game. So 10-0, maybe, maybe not, you know,
yeah.
toss up. But then you have Atlanta after that, which, like, then they go
That's the
Atlanta, Phoenix,
stretch that I'm looking
Seattle.
at. It's Indiana
Yeah,
if Caitlin's back in particular. If
yeah.
they go undefeated through a Caitlin back Indiana team, Atlanta, Phoenix, at Seattle, yeah, we're gonna be talking about some
Oh,
different
yeah.
conversations about this New York Liberty team. But that's definitely the stretch
Exactly.
that I'm looking at. And I'm not gonna sleep on like I thought Washington. Obviously, their rookies are hooping too.
Yeah.
Chicago looks better now that Ariel Atkins is scoring the ball.
Yep.
So I'm not gonna like bypass those games, but ultimately, like when I'm thinking about like pure, like okay, it's really. I mean, they are the litmus test. They are going to get every team's best, and if they run
Yep.
through and they get to like, I mean, if they get through these, like if they end up like 15-0, right, or where like
Yeah.
that's where they end up. We're gonna be having some very insane conversations about where this New York Liberty team lies in their greatness and everything. And obviously, we'll have to determine that at the end of the season, but
Yeah.
there'll be some early conversations about just how good this team really is, but
Oh,
that's
for
looking ahead
sure.
a lot, and there's some
Yeah.
really good teams in
You
that
gotta
stretch.
go
So I'm not
game
gonna
by
put the cart
game.
before the horse on it, but yeah,
No.
if they make it through that stretch undefeated, we're having some even more certain conversations about how good this Liberty team is.
Yeah, and the one I'm circling for sure is, Indiana, Saturday, June 14th, 3 p.m. It's an ESPN game, as it should be.
Mm,
That is the one for me, I think. Fresh Caitlin, which fantastic. Hopefully, the other injuries on the Fever don't
mm,
get too deep because they've kind of been suffering with that.
yeah, for sure.
Plus, this I feel like Indiana as a team is somewhat like as a team that is very much powered by like the revenge plot. Like I don't know what else to call it, but like they've lost 3 games in a row now. They lost that close game to New York the last time they played. Caitlin is back now. You have all these like things that are working in their favor. They have extreme home court advantage.
Mm.
Um, and so that's the game I'm circling because I'm like, that's going to be a big test for this New York team that just keeps getting better and better. And if you can beat Indiana at home in a game where Caitlin Clark has 2 week fresh legs,
Yeah, I think for me with that game, if that has, um, if Caitlin's back, and
mhm.
I think one thing, especially if she comes back like the game before, potentially, I don't know
Well,
exactly what the schedule looks
they
like.
play. I was looking at their schedule. They played the Tuesday against Atlanta, and then they
Mhm.
don't play until Saturday. So, like, I could see
Okay.
them resting her Tuesday.
Yeah,
Just yeah,
probably so.
so
But I'll
that
tell
she's
you,
fresh,
because
fresh.
I'll tell you is if she's back and completely healthy and everything, to me, that immediately becomes a game for Indiana from their perspective to reannounce
Exactly,
themselves as a contender. Because obviously, like, this
exactly.
stretch has not been great. You lose the first game to New York in a close one. That game was so good. But yeah, I think that game, I mean, that should be one way or another, again, like we're gonna find out in that game if it's, again, all with the caveat if Caitlin is healthy, but
yep,
we'll find out about what threat Indiana poses. I feel like in that game in particular, because they're gonna want to run it back from that first one, and again reassert themselves in that contender tier of teams, because obviously they've kind of fallen out of that when Caitlin went down, and the results that they've had so far.
Exactly, and I think it's like you said, it's more important for Indiana. They need to reannounce themselves, but like in the end, that I mean, going a 44 game season undefeated would be incredible.
Yeah, I'm not saying all that.
But like,
hold on, Chelsea, hold on. Let's not.
Yeah, no. I'm not. We're not saying that. We're not. And I'm saying the Liberty will lose eventually. Like that's just a part of life. So like, I don't think this game is as important for them because they've cemented themselves as the contender.
Oh, for sure.
I think it's more important for Indiana, like you said, to reassert themselves as contenders, for Caitlin Clark to re-enter the MVP conversation, the whatever conversation. I'm not saying I don't think she as like a player or person is like, I need to win MVP, whatever. Like, I don't think that's how she thinks, but like from a outside perspective, and getting a win. Cause like, again, like the Indiana, they're not going to like exit the Caitlin Clark list time with a winning record at this point. So like getting back in, getting that morale win, getting a win against the best team, breaking possibly their undefeated season streak, like that's important for them. So that's a game I'm circling on my calendar. I'm going to be with my parents that weekend. So sorry, parents, you're going to have to watch.
Yeah, they're going to have to wait.
You're going to have to sit. I'm claiming the TV now. If my mom and dad are listening, 3 p.m. on the 14th, we are seated in front of the television. Absolutely. I don't care what Portuguese soccer team is playing that day. That's what we're watching. So anyway, but that's going to be exciting. I think that's like the big, if we don't get a Minnesota game, this might be a big test for them.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's certainly, that one starts a heck of a stretch for teams that are looking to prove themselves against New York. And if New York goes unscathed,
yeah, I might be trying to be in Brooklyn in October. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. Someone let me sleep on your couch. Let's go. We have enough friends in New York. I think we can make it happen.
Please.
But oh man, with that, I mean, you and I can yap for about 3 more hours, but we'll cut it at that. Just, going into a new WNBA week. I mean, the Liberty, we've been talking about them for the last 40 minutes. They don't play until Thursday. So that is, they get a good amount of rest after the weekend and, dumping a 48-point deficit on Connecticut. But WNBA action resumes tonight, so we'll be back. Well, I'll be back tomorrow to recap whatever happens tonight. But make sure to subscribe to the Her Hoop Stats podcast here on YouTube if you're listening on YouTube or wherever you are listening to our podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our newsletter as well. It comes into your email inbox every single day. And also make sure to follow Tyler and I on social media. You can see our handles here if you're watching on video. But Her Hoop Stats is also on Twitter, X, and Instagram as well. So make sure to follow us there for all of your updated stats, articles, podcasts, the whole thing. And, thanks for chatting with me today, Tyler.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. We'll see you next time.